and welcome to this demo of protecting Microsoft SQL on Kubernetes with Kasten K10 blueprints. In this demo, we will install Microsoft SQL 2019 into a new Microsoft Azure Kubernetes Service 3-node cluster. We'll use a few simple commands and some YAML files to create a brand new installation of Microsoft SQL into this cluster. With these YAML files, we can deploy a new database and put it on a public IP address so that we can access it using Microsoft SQL Studio. Let's validate that our pods are now up and running, and they are. Let's quickly grab our IP address of this new database, and we'll go over to Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio and connect to the database. We'll put in our IP address, our login name and password. And you can see our database is online and we've now successfully connected to it. Well, the first thing that we want to do as part of this demo is put a database on our new SQL server. So let's just restore a simple database onto this server using a database backup file. And now we have a database running on top of our server. As you can see, we've got tables here. And we'll just run some simple SQL queries on these databases to validate that there's data in these tables. Okay, so we've got our database running now on top of Azure Kubernetes Service. Let's jump over to the Kasten K10 UI. And you can see that we discovered the new SQL Server running in our cluster. And clicking on details here in the Kasten K10 UI, we can review the persistent volume claim data, the pods, and the networking and metadata configurations of this application. From here, we can go to Settings, and you'll see the new Blueprints UI in Kasten K10. Blueprints allow Kasten K10 to integrate with specific databases like Microsoft SQL to create application-consistent backup. You can write your own blueprint here, or use sample blueprints found out at canister.io. Sample blueprints can be used to get you started, or you can modify them for your specific database. In this demo, we'll use the sample out on canister.io. We'll highlight, copy this, and we'll paste it into our Blueprints UI. We can review the blueprint and validate and save. Once the blueprint has been added into the Kasten K10 UI, let's go back to the application and enable the blueprint on the workload. Click Add Blueprint, select our Microsoft SQL blueprint, and add it to this application. As you can see, the icon indicates that a blueprint has been added to the backup. Let's create a new backup policy for Microsoft SQL. Select our snapshot frequency and our export frequency, export location, select the application by name, and click Create Policy. Our backup policy has now been created with the settings displayed on the card. We can choose Run Now to run the backup immediately. In the Kasten K10 UI, you can watch the progress of your snapshot and backup. Now that our backup is completed, we can validate that the application is now compliant with policies, and we can see that we have 2 backup and restore points. Let's test our restore by deleting our database to simulate an accidental dropping of the database or some other malicious activity. Within the Kasten K10 UI, we can select a restore point either from the snapshot or from the exported backup out to our object storage, and let's choose Restore. We can watch the progress of the restore within the Kasten K10 UI. Now that our restore is complete, let's validate that our database is back, and then we can run queries against the tables in the database. As you can see, Kasten K10 has restored Microsoft SQL back to full functionality. And this has been a demo of protecting Microsoft SQL on on Kubernetes with Kasten K10 Blueprints.